Hello everyone, tonight we embark on the quiet journey of a Chasqui and Inca messenger, threading through the rugged paths of the Andes. Picture yourself there in a small stone hut, the air dim with pre-dawn light, a chill brushing your skin. The wind hums softly outside like a whisper from the mountains. You're a Chasqui trained to run miles, carrying cryptic messages knotted in quipu cords. Honestly, you probably wouldn't survive a day in your own sandals. Those llama wool shoes aren't exactly cozy. But we'll try, won't we? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're relaxing tonight. Now turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some gentle white noise, and let's step into tonight's journey together. You stir gently on a woven mat, the coarse alpaca wool scratching lightly against your skin. The air inside the stone hut is cool, almost damp, carrying the faint scent of earth and the smoky remnants of last night's fire, now a pile of grey ash in the corner. Your eyes adjust to the dimness, catching slivers of pale dawn slipping through gaps in the stone walls. The Andes are waking, but they do so slowly, like a giant stretching after a long slumber. You're a Chasqui, one of the Inca Empire's elite runners, tasked with carrying messages across vast mountains, from one Tambo rest stop to another. Your life is simple but strange, tied to the rhythm of the trails and the weight of the knotted cords you carry. You don't know what the quipu says, nobody's taught you to read its knots, but you know it's important, and that's enough. You sit up, your breath visible in the chilly air, a faint cloud that fades as quickly as it forms. Your tunic, woven from rough llama wool, clings to your shoulders, its weight familiar but never quite comfortable. You stretch your arms, feeling the ache from yesterday's run linger in your muscles. The Incas didn't believe in sleeping in, not when messages needed to move faster than the wind. You chuckle to yourself, imagining explaining to your supervisor, a stern-faced noble with a habit of chewing coca leaves, that you needed a day off. Good luck with that. The thought is absurd, like trying to convince a llama to carry your pack instead of spitting at you. Your first task is to prepare your body for the day's run. You reach for a small woven pouch tucked beside your mat. Inside are dried coca leaves, their edges curled like tiny green scrolls. You take a few, tucking them into your cheek, and begin to chew slowly. The bitter taste floods your mouth, sharp and earthy, like biting into a handful of forest soil. It's not exactly breakfast, but it's what keeps you going. The Incas swore by coca for stamina, and you've learned to trust it, even if it makes your tongue feel like it's been dipped in chalk. Historians still debate whether Chasquis used coca purely for energy, or if it held some ritual significance, but you don't care much for the debate. You just know it helps you keep up with the mountains. You shift your weight, feeling the cold stone floor beneath your feet. The hut is small, barely wide enough for two people to lie side by side, its walls stacked with stones fitted so tightly you can't slip a blade between them. Inca engineering, you think, is the kind of thing that makes you feel both impressed and mildly annoyed. Who has time to carve stones this perfectly when there are messages to deliver? You shake your head, a faint smile tugging at your lips. The modern world would probably try to automate your job with drones. But up here in the high Andes, it's just you, your legs, and a lot of stubborn determination. You stand brushing dust from your tunic and move toward a small clay pot in the corner. It holds water drawn last night from a nearby stream. You splash some on your face, the cold shocking your skin awake like a slap from the mountain itself. Your reflection wavers in the water's surface, distorted but familiar dark eyes, weathered skin and hair, tied back with a thin strip of leather. You're young, maybe 20, but the Andes have a way of aging you faster than you'd like. You catch yourself wondering if the nobles in Cuzco with their gold jewelry and cushy palaces ever wake up this early. Probably not. They're too busy sipping chicha and debating which god needs more llama sacrifices. The water drips down your chin, pooling in the hollow of your collarbone. You wipe it away with the back of your hand, noticing the faint calluses built up from years of gripping quipu cords and running rocky trails. Your hands aren't soft, but they're steady, and that's what matters. You kneel beside your mat, pulling out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside is your quipu for the day, a series of knotted cords, each knot tied with precision to convey some message you'll never fully understand. The cords are dyed in muted colors, red, brown, blue, each hue supposedly meaning something, though you've heard conflicting stories. Some say red means danger, others say it's just the weaver's favorite color. You roll your eyes at the thought. Typical Inca bureaucracy, make something simple, then wrap it in mystery. You run your fingers over the knots, feeling their texture, some tight and small, others loose and bulky. It's like reading a language made of bumps and loops, except you're not the reader. Your job is to carry, not to decipher. You sling the quipu over your shoulder, its weight light, but constant like a friend who never stops talking. The cords bounce against your back as you move, a soft thump-thump that will keep you company on the trail. You wonder not for the first time what the knots are saying today. A call for more potatoes, a warning about a storm, a noble's order for fancier sandals. You smirk at the idea of running 10 miles just to deliver a shoe request. Outside, the dawn is breaking, painting the sky in soft pinks and purples. You pause at the doorway, taking a deep breath. The air is thin up here at nearly 12,000 feet, and it bites at your lungs like a curious dog. You're used to it, though. Chasqui are trained to breathe where others would falter. You glance at the mountains stretching before you, their peaks sharp against the sky like the spine of some ancient beast. The Andes don't care about your schedule or your sore feet. They just are vast and unyielding, and you're just a small figure darting across their slopes. You step outside, the cold wrapping around you like a heavy cloak. Your sandals crunch against the dirt, a sound so familiar it's almost comforting. You adjust the quipu, making sure it's secure, and take another chew of coca, the bitterness grounding you. The trail awaits, a narrow ribbon of packed earth winding through the mountains. You've run it 100 times, maybe more, but each journey feels new in its own quiet way. The Incas built these trails to last, stones fitted together like a puzzle, but they didn't make them soft. Your feet will remind you of that by noon. Before you set off, you glance back at the hut, its low roof blending into the hillside. It's not much, but it's shelter, a place to rest before the next run. You wonder if anyone in the modern world would trade their cozy beds for this. A stone floor, a wool mat, and a job that demands you run until your legs beg for mercy. Probably not, you think, chuckling softly. The idea of a chasqui applying for work-from-home status is almost too ridiculous to imagine. You picture yourself trying to explain to a noble that you'd rather send the quipu by carrier pigeon. Yeah, that'd go over well. You take a final sip of water from your pouch, the liquid cold enough to make your teeth ache. The coca is starting to work now, a faint warmth spreading through your chest, dulling the morning's chill. You feel ready, or as ready as you'll ever be. The trail stretches out before you, disappearing into the mist that clings to the mountains like a shy spirit. You adjust your tunic one last time, feeling the rough wool against your skin, and take your first step outside the air, cold against your face. It's time to begin your day. You stand just outside the stone hut, the cold air of the Andes brushing against your face like a soft, persistent hand. The quipu cords slung over your shoulder tap lightly against your back, their rhythm a quiet reminder of the day's work ahead. You glance down at your feet bare against the packed earth and realize it's time to lace up your sandals. They're not much to look at, simple weaves of llama wool and toughened leather worn thin from countless runs across these mountains. But they're your lifeline, the only thing between your soles and the sharp stones of the Inca trails. You kneel, feeling the ground's chill seep through your tunic and pull the sandals from a small bundle beside you. The sandals are rough, their fibers coarse like the mat you slept on last night. You run your fingers over the weave, noticing the faint smell of dust and animal hide, a scent that clings to everything up here. The Incas didn't believe in fancy footwear, not for chasqui like you. These sandals are built for function, not comfort, and you've learned to accept that. You chuckle softly, imagining trying to pitch ergonomic insoles to a weaver in Cusco. They'd probably think you were joking, or worse, lazy. The thought of a chasqui demanding cushioned shoes feels as out of place as a llama wearing a crown. You sit on a low stone near the hut, its surface cold and smooth under your thighs. The dawn light is stronger now, casting long shadows across the ground, painting the mountains in shades of gold and grey. You pick up the first sandal, its straps stiff from the cold. The leather is darkened from use, stained by sweat and dust, but it's sturdy, the kind of craftsmanship that lasts. You slip your foot into it, feeling the wool press against your skin, not soft but familiar, like an old friend who's a bit too honest. The straps are long, designed to wrap around your ankle and calf, securing the sandal for the long run ahead. You begin to lace them, your fingers moving slowly, deliberately, as if tying each knot is a small ritual to greet the day. The process is methodical, almost meditative. You loop the strap under your foot, pulling it snug against your arch, then cross it over your instep, feeling the slight pinch where the leather bites into your skin. You wrap it around your ankle, twice tying a firm knot just below your calf. The sandal feels tight, but that's how it's supposed to be. Loose straps mean blisters, and blisters mean you're not running tomorrow. You've made that mistake before, back when you were new to this, and your feet paid the price. You smirk, remembering how you hobbled into a tambo, trying to look dignified, while your soul screamed. Lesson learned: respect the sandals, or the Andes will teach you humility. You move to the second sandal, repeating the process. The wool scratches faintly as you slide your foot in, and you notice a small tear in the weave, a reminder to ask a weaver for repairs at the next village. You could fix it yourself, but your knots are better suited for quipu than footwear. Historians still debate whether Chasqui made their own sandals or relied on local weavers, but you've always handed yours off to someone with more patience for needlework. Whoever made these, you think deserves a nod for keeping you upright on trails that seem designed to trip you. You pull the straps tight, feeling the leather hug your foot, and tie another knot, your fingers steady, despite the morning chill. The air is sharp, now biting at your exposed skin as you work. You can see your breath again, a faint puff that drifts upward before vanishing. The Andes don't ease you into the day, they wake you with a jolt, like a friend who thinks splashing cold water on your face is funny. You glance at the mountains, their peaks looming like silent giants, and feel a quiet respect. They're your workplace, your challenge, your home. You've heard stories of Chasqui who got cocky thinking they could outsmart the trails, only to twist an ankle or lose their way. The Andes don't forgive arrogance, but they reward those who move with care. You stand testing the sandals' fit. The wool presses against your feet, firm but not painful, and the straps hold steady as you shift your weight. You take a few steps, the earth crunching softly underfoot, and feel the familiar rhythm of the trail calling you. The sandals aren't much, but they're enough, carrying you across stones and dust with a stubborn reliability. You think of the modern world with its sneakers and laces that tie themselves. Fancy, sure, but would they survive a week in the Andes? You laugh quietly, picturing a shiny running shoe shredded by the first rocky slope. Your sandals, plain as they are, have seen you through worse. You adjust your tunic, the rough llama wool brushing your shoulders, and check the quipu again, its cord still secure. The coca leaves you chewed earlier are doing their job, a faint warmth spreading through your limbs, dulling the cold. You remember the first time you tried coca, how the bitterness made you grimace, and how an older Chasqui laughed, saying you'd learn to love it. He wasn't wrong. You tuck the pouch into your belt, its weight a small comfort, and take another look at the trail ahead. It's narrow, winding, disappearing into the mist, like a thread pulled taut. The sandals feel good, ready for the miles ahead, but you pause to tighten one last strap. You kneel again, tugging the leather until it's just right, and notice a small stone lodged in the weave. You pluck it out, rolling it between your fingers. It's smooth, worn by years of wind and water, the kind of stone the Incas might have used to mark a sacred spot. You toss it aside, wondering if it meant something, once a marker, a prayer, a whim. The Incas loved their symbols, but you're just a runner, not a priest. Your job is to move, not to ponder. You stand again, the sandals now snug their texture, a quiet reassurance against the uncertainty of the trail. The dawn is fully here, the sky a soft glow that makes the mountains look almost gentle, though you know better. You take a deep breath, the air sharp and clean, filling your lungs with a clarity that only comes at this altitude. The quipu thumps against your back, the coca tingles in your cheek, and the sandals hold firm. You're ready, or as ready as you'll ever be. You take another step, the ground solid beneath you, and feel the Andes waking around you, their silence both vast and intimate. The trail stretches on, and you're about to meet it. You stand on the edge of the trail, your sandals now snug against your feet, the coarse llama wool and leather gripping your soles like a quiet promise. The quipu cords rest lightly on your shoulder, their soft thump a familiar companion as you shift your weight. The Andean dawn is fully awake now, its light spilling over the mountains in gentle waves of gold and grey, though the air remains sharp, nipping at your skin. Your tunic feels heavy with the morning's chill, but your body is ready, or almost ready. There's one more ritual before you start running, one that every Chasqui knows by heart. You reach for the small woven pouch at your belt, its fibers dyed a faded red, and undo the knot with practiced ease. Inside are the coca leaves, your strange but trusted ally for the long miles ahead. You pull out a small handful, the leaves dry and curled, their edges brittle like old parchment. They're small, no bigger than your thumbnail, and their green is muted as if the Andes have leached some of their color. You hold them to your nose, catching their faint, earthy scent, something like damp grass mixed with dust. It's not exactly inviting, but it's familiar, and that's enough. You tuck the leaves into your cheek one by one, letting them settle against your gums. The first chew is always the hardest, the bitterness hitting your tongue like a slap. You wince just a little and can't help but smirk at the thought of explaining this to someone from the modern world. Breakfast. Oh, just some leaves that taste like dirt. They'd probably think you were joking or crazy. The flavor spreads slowly, sharp and astringent, like biting into a green twig. You chew deliberately, your jaw moving in a steady rhythm, coaxing the leaves to release their strange magic. The Incas have used coca for centuries, not just for chasquis, but for farmers, priests, and even nobles in Cusco's fancy palaces. It's not food, not really, but it's what keeps you moving when the air is thin and the trails are relentless. You feel the first tingle in your chest, a faint warmth that pushes back against the mountain chill. It's subtle, like the glow of a single ember, but it's enough to make you feel alive. You chuckle softly, imagining trying to pitch coca leaves to a modern gym goer as the ultimate pre-workout supplement. They'd probably stick to their neon energy drinks, and you can't blame them. You shift the leaves in your mouth, letting them soften as you chew. The bitterness is still there, but it's starting to fade, replaced by a slight numbness on your tongue. You've done this hundreds of times, maybe thousands, since you were chosen as a chasqui. Back then, you were just a boy, wide-eyed and nervous, handed a pouch of leaves by an older runner who said, "Chew these, or the mountains will eat you alive." He wasn't wrong. The Andes don't care if you're tired or cold, they'll outlast you unless you're stubborn enough to keep up. You glance at the peaks around you, their jagged edges softened by the morning mist, and feel a quiet respect. The coca helps, but it's your legs and lungs that do the real work. You kneel briefly to adjust the pouch, tucking it back into your belt. The leaves are starting to work now, the warmth spreading to your limbs, making your fingers feel less stiff. You notice a small tear in the pouch's weave, a reminder to get it fixed at the next tambo. You're no weaver, and the last time you tried to mend something, you ended up with a knot that looked like a child's scribble. You smile at the memory, picturing the weaver's exasperated sigh when you handed her your mangled attempt. Stick to running, she'd said, and you have ever since. The pouch is secure now, its weight a small anchor against the vastness of the mountains. Historians still debate whether coca was just a practical tool for Chasqui or something more, maybe a sacred offering to the mountain gods, or a way to connect with the spirits of the land. You don't know, and honestly, you don't care. You're not a priest, just a runner, and the leaves help you keep moving. That's enough theology for you. You chew a bit more the flavor now, a dull hum in your mouth, and feel your heart beat a little steadier, your breath a little deeper. The air up here at nearly 12,000 feet is thin enough to make your head spin if you're not careful. But the coca grounds you like a tether to the earth. You take a step, feeling the crunch of dirt under your sandals, and glance at the trail ahead. It's narrow, winding, disappearing into the mist like a river of stone. The Incas built these paths with a precision that still amazes you. Stones fitted so tightly you can't slip a finger between them. But they're not soft, and your sandals remind you of that with every step. You think of the modern world again, with its paved roads and fancy shoes. Would they trade their comfort for this? You laugh quietly, imagining a city dweller tripping over the first rock and giving up. Your sandals, rough as they are, have carried you through worse, and the coca keeps you sharp. You chew a bit more the leaves now, a soft wad in your cheek. The numbness is stronger, spreading to your lips, and you wonder not for the first time how the Incas figured this out. Did someone just decide to chew random leaves one day and think, hey, this makes running up mountains easier? You picture a long-ago farmer, bored and curious, popping leaves in his mouth and suddenly sprinting like a startled llama. The idea is absurd, but it makes you grin. The Andes have a way of inspiring strange solutions, and you're grateful for this one, even if it tastes like you're eating the forest floor. You pause to spit out a bit of the leaf residue, careful not to let it stain your tunic. The Incas are particular about cleanliness, even out here, where the only witnesses are the mountains and the occasional curious condor. You glance up, half expecting to see one of those massive birds circling above, but the sky is clear, just a soft wash of blue and gold. You take another chew, the rhythm of your jaw matching the slow pulse of the morning. The coca's warmth is steady now, a quiet fire in your chest, and you feel ready to run, or at least as ready as you'll ever be. The trail calls its stones, gleaming faintly in the dawn light, and you know it's time to move. You take one last look at the hut behind you, its low roof blending into the hillside, like it's part of the mountain itself. The quipu thumps softly against your back, the sandals grip your feet, and the coca hums in your veins. You think of the nobles in Cuzco, probably still asleep in their cushy beds, and wonder if they'd ever try chewing coca themselves. Probably not. They'd rather sip chicha and let you do the running. You smirk at the thought, picturing a noble spitting out the leaves and demanding something sweeter. Tough luck, you think. Out here, it's just you, the leaves, and the Andes. You take a deep breath, the air sharp and clean, and feel the coca's warmth settle deeper. The trail stretches before you, a silent challenge, but you're no stranger to it. You shift the leaves in your cheek, their bitterness now a comfort, and take a step forward, the ground solid beneath you. The mountains watch quiet and vast, As you prepare to meet the day, the coca leaves rest softly in your cheek, their bitter warmth spreading through your chest, steadying you against the Andean chill. Your sandals grip the earth, the rough weave of llama wool and leather, a quiet anchor beneath your feet. The dawn light is stronger now, painting the mountains in soft hues of gold and pink, though the air still bites, curling around your tunic like a curious spirit. You feel the quipu cords against your shoulder, their gentle thump a reminder of the task ahead. Before you set off on the trail, there's one more thing to do, one more ritual to ensure the day's run goes smoothly. You need to check the quipu, the knotted cords that carry the Empire's messages, their meaning hidden in loops and twists you've never been taught to read. You step back toward the stone hut, its low roof blending into the hillside, and settle onto a flat rock just outside. The stone is cold against your thighs, its surface smoothed by years of wind and rain. You sling the quipu from your shoulder, laying it carefully across your lap. The cords are light, almost delicate, but they feel heavy with purpose. They're a tangle of colors, red, brown, blue, and a faded yellow, each strand woven from cotton or llama wool, dyed with plants you've never bothered to name. You run your fingers over them, feeling the texture of the knots, some small and tight, others loose and bulky. It's like holding a puzzle you're not meant to solve, and you can't help but smile at the thought. If this were the modern world, you'd probably have an app for this, some flashy screen decoding the knots in seconds. Good luck getting a signal up here. The quipu is your responsibility, your burden, your reason for running. You don't know what it says. Chasqui aren't trained to read the knots, only to carry them. But you know it's important. A message from Cuzco, maybe, or a tally of potatoes from a distant village. You chuckle softly, imagining the knots spelling out something mundane, like a noble's request for extra quinoa or a reminder to fix a broken bridge. The Incas love their records, their systems, their order. You've heard stories of Quaipucamayocs, the knot keepers spending hours tying and untying these cords, their fingers dancing like weavers at a loom. You're just the delivery guy, though, and that's fine by you. Less thinking, more running. You hold the quipu up to the dawn light, the cords catching the glow like threads of a spider's web. You inspect each strand, checking for damage. A frayed cord could mean a lost message, and a lost message could mean a very unhappy noble waiting at the next tambo. You've seen that look before, eyes narrowed, arms crossed, as if you personally untied the knots just to spite them. You smirk, picturing yourself trying to explain that to a modern boss. Sorry, the email unraveled on the way. The cords look intact today, though they're knots firm under your fingers. You trace one strand, feeling a series of tight, evenly spaced bumps. What do they mean? A number, a name. A warning. You'll never know, and that's part of the job's strange charm. You turn the quipu over, noticing a small knot that feels slightly off, looser than the rest. You pause, squinting in the dim light. It's probably fine, but you tug gently, testing its strength. The cord holds, and you let out a quiet breath. The last thing you need is a knot slipping free mid-run, scattering some vital message into the wind. You've heard tales of Chasqui who lost quipus, dropped them in a river, snagged them on a thorn bush, and the trouble that followed. You'd rather not be the one explaining that to a Quipucamayoc. They're patient with their cords, but not with runners who fumble them. You smile, imagining a Quipuca Mayok's face if you suggested using parchment instead. Parchment, they'd say, as if you'd insulted their entire lineage. Historians still debate what quipus were really for. Some say they were just numbers. Others think they held stories, even histories. You don't have an opinion, but you've always wondered if the knots could tell a joke. Probably not. But the idea of running 10 miles to deliver a punchline makes you grin. You run your fingers along another strand. This one dyed a deep red, the color vivid against the pale dawn. Red might mean something urgent, or it might just mean the weaver had extra dye. You've heard both theories from other chasqui, usually over a cup of chicha at a tambo. Nobody agrees, and you don't mind. The mystery keeps things interesting. You shift on the rock, feeling the cold seep through your tunic. The quipu is spread across your lap now, its cords fanning out like a river delta. You check each one, your fingers moving slowly, deliberately, as if the act itself is part of the journey. The knots are intricate, some tied in clusters, others standing alone, each one a small enigma. You notice a faint stain on one cord, maybe dirt, maybe alpaca grease from the last tambo. You rub it gently, but it doesn't budge. No matter. The knots are what count, not the polish. You're not delivering a work of art, just a message, though sometimes you wonder if the two are the same to the Incas. The air is still sharp, the dawn light softening the mountain's edges, but doing little to warm you. You can see your breath, a faint puff that drifts upward, mingling with the mist. The Andes are quiet this morning, save for the distant call of a bird, maybe a condor, maybe something smaller. You don't look up, too focused on the quipu. You lift another strand, this one blue, and feel its knot smooth and even like beads on a string. You've carried quipus like this for years, and you've learned to trust their weight, their rhythm. They're your map, your purpose, even if their secrets stay locked away. You sling the quipu back over your shoulder, adjusting it so the cords don't tangle. The coca in your cheek is a soft wad now, its bitterness a steady hum. You feel its warmth in your limbs, a quiet energy that makes the trail seem less daunting. You think of the modern world again with its emails and instant messages. Would they trade their screens for these cords, these endless runs through the mountains? You laugh softly, picturing a city dweller trying to decode a quipu under fluorescent lights. Your sandals crunch against the dirt. As you stand, the quipu secure its knots, checked and ready. The trail waits, winding into the mist, and you're one step closer to running it. The quipu rests lightly against your shoulder, its cords tapping softly with each movement, a quiet rhythm that blends with the faint crunch of your sandals on the packed earth. The coca leaves in your cheek have settled into a familiar bitterness, their warmth spreading through your chest, steadying your breath against the thin Andean air. The dawn has fully broken now, casting a golden glow over the mountains, their peaks sharp against a sky that's turning a soft, endless blue. You stand at the trail's edge, the narrow path stretching before you like a ribbon of stone winding through the rugged slopes. Your sandals are snug, the quipu is secure, and the coca is doing its job. It's time to run, to begin the day's journey as a chasqui, carrying the empire's messages across the Andes. You take your first step, then another, easing into a steady jog. The trail is familiar, its stones fitted together with the kind of precision only the Incas could manage. Each one is smooth worn by countless runners before you, but they're not forgiving. A misstep could mean a twisted ankle, and you've learned to move with care. You dodge a small rock, its edges jagged enough to bite through your sandals, and feel a quiet satisfaction in the motion. It's second nature now, like breathing, though you remember your first runs, clumsy, nervous tripping over every pebble. You smile, imagining explaining to a modern runner that your track is a mountain path with no finish line. They'd probably stick to their treadmills. The air is crisp, slicing into your lungs with each breath, but the coca helps dulling the ache of the altitude. You're at nearly 12,000 feet, where the air feels like it's playing hard to get. Your legs move in a steady rhythm, the sandals slapping softly against the stones, a sound that echoes faintly in the vast silence of the Andes. The trail curves gently, hugging the side of a slope, and you lean into it, your body finding its balance. The mountains watch their peaks looming like silent sentinels, indifferent to your effort. You've run this path 100 times, maybe more, but each step feels new, as if the Andes are daring you to keep up. You dodge another rock, this one half buried in the dirt, and notice a faint groove in the trail, probably carved by a chasqui who wasn't as careful. You chuckle softly, picturing the poor runner limping into a tambo, trying to explain his stumble to a grumpy overseer. The rock came out of nowhere, he'd say, and you can almost hear the laughter from the other runners. The Incas built these trails to last, but they didn't make them easy. Every chasqui learns that the hard way, and you've got the calluses to prove it. You glance down at your sandals, the llama wool fraying slightly at the edges, and make a mental note to get them repaired. Again, the quipu thumps against your back, its cord swaying with your stride. You feel its weight light but constant, like a friend who's always there but never quite helpful. You wonder, not for the first time, what the knots are saying today. A call for more llamas. A warning about a storm, or maybe just a noble's complaint about his chicha being too watery. You smirk at the thought, imagining running miles just to deliver a bad review. Historians still debate whether Quipus carried only numbers or entire stories. But you don't care much for the argument. Your job is to run, not to read, and the cords are safe, that's what matters. The trail dips slightly, and you adjust your pace, your sandals gripping the stones as you descend. The air feels cooler here, shaded by a rocky outcrop, and you catch the faint scent of dust and wild grass. You breathe it in, letting it ground you. The Andes are alive in their own way, not with noise, but with presence. Every stone, every gust of wind feels like part of a larger story. You've heard the Incas call the mountains Apa spirits that watch over the land. You're not sure if you believe that, but you nod to the peaks anyway, just in case. Better to stay on their good side, you think, grinning at the idea of a mountain holding a grudge. Your legs are warming up now, the coca's energy pulsing through your muscles. You feel the rhythm of the run, your body settling into a flow that's almost meditative. Step, dodge, step, breathe. The trail is narrow, barely wide enough for two people to pass. But you're alone for now, just you and the mountains. You notice a small pile of stones to your left, stacked neatly, a marker maybe, or an offering to the APUs. The Incas love their rituals, and you've seen these piles before, left by travelers or priests. You don't stop to add a stone, but you give the pile a respectful glance. No need to tempt fate. The trail curves again, climbing slightly, and you feel the strain in your calves. You lean forward, keeping your balance, and dodge another rock, this one sharp enough to make you wince at the thought of hitting it. You've got a knack for this now, a quiet pride in your ability to read the trail like a book. Not that you'd ever say that out loud, boasting isn't a Chasqui's way, and besides, the Andes have a way of humbling you. You think of the modern world with its GPS and paved paths. Would they trade their maps for this? A trail that shifts with every rain, every gust of wind. You laugh softly, picturing a city dweller staring at a quipu trying to download directions. The coca is fully working now, a steady warmth that makes the air feel less sharp. You chew a bit more, the leaves soft in your cheek, their bitterness a familiar comfort. You remember the first time you ran with coca, how it made your heart race like a startled alpaca. Now it's just part of the routine, like the sandals or the quipu. You glance at the cords still secure and feel a small relief. Losing a quipu would be worse than tripping on a rock. Nobles don't take kindly to lost messages, and you'd rather not face their glares. You picture yourself trying to explain it to a modern boss. Sorry, the file fell off a cliff. Yeah, that'd go over well. The trail stretches on, winding through the mountains like a thread through a needle. You keep running, your breath steady, your sandals slapping the stones. The Andes are quiet but not silent. There's the crunch of your steps, the rustle of your tunic, the faint whistle of the wind. You feel alive, part of the mountains, part of the empire's vast web of trails and messages. The quipu thumps, the coca hums, and the trail calls you forward into the mist and beyond. Your sandals slap rhythmically against the stone trail, the sound blending with the soft thump of the quipu cords against your back. The coca leaves in your cheek have settled into a familiar bitterness, their warmth steadying your breath as you navigate the narrow Andean path. The morning light bathes the mountains in a soft glow, the peaks standing tall and silent, their shadows stretching like long fingers across the earth. You've been running for a while now, your legs moving with the ease of practice, dodging rocks and ruts with a quiet grace. The trail is relentless, but you're a Chasqui built for this, and the coca keeps the altitude's bite at bay. Up ahead, you spot the low, sturdy outline of a tambo, a rest stop, carved into the mountainside, its stone walls blending with the landscape. It's time to pause to catch your breath and to sip the chicha that waits inside. You slow your pace, easing from a jog to a walk, the trail's stones crunching softly under your sandals. The tambo is small, its roof thatched with dried grass, the kind of place that feels both temporary and eternal. You've stopped at dozens like it scattered across the Inca Empire's vast network of trails. They're not much stone walls, a packed earth floor, maybe a fire pit if you're lucky, but they're a lifeline for runners like you. You smile, imagining trying to explain a tambo to someone from the modern world. It's like a gas station, but with no snacks and more dust. They'd probably drive right past it looking for a coffee shop. You step through the low doorway, ducking slightly to avoid the rough stone lintel. The air inside is cooler, tinged with the faint smell of smoke and fermented corn. Your eyes adjust to the dimness, catching the glow of a small fire in the corner, its embers casting flickering shadows on the walls. A woven mat lies near the fire, and a clay jug sits on a low stone shelf, its surface etched with simple patterns. That's the chicha, the Inca's favorite drink, brewed from corn and left to ferment, until it's just strong enough to take the edge off. You set the quipu down carefully on a clean patch of floor, its cords pooling like a tangle of thoughts. You're not worried about it. Here tambos are safe, watched over by locals who know the value of a chasqui's cargo. You kneel beside the jug, lifting it with both hands. It's heavier than it looks, the clay cool against your palms. You pour a small amount into a wooden cup, the liquid sloshing softly, its color a cloudy gold. The chicha smells sharp, like wet grain left in the sun, and you take a slow sip, letting the flavor roll over your tongue. It's tangy, slightly sour, with a bite that makes your lips pucker. You've had better, but you've had worse too. You chuckle softly, picturing a modern bartender trying to serve this at a fancy bar. Fermented corn juice, anyone, they'd be out of business in a week. You settle onto the mat, the woven fibers scratching faintly against your tunic. The fire's warmth is a quiet comfort, easing the chill from your skin. You take another sip of chicha, savoring its strange familiarity. The Incas drink it for everything: ceremonies, work, rest. It's not just a drink. It's a ritual, a way to connect with the land and the people who work it. You're no priest, but you appreciate the gesture, even if the taste makes you wince. Historians still debate whether chicha was just a social drink or a sacred offering, but to you, it's just what's in the jug. You're a runner, not a scholar, and you're happy to leave the debates to Cuzco's nobles. The tambo isn't empty. Across the room, two travelers sit cross-legged, their voices low and steady, like the hum of a distant stream. They're traders, you think, judging by their heavy packs and the way they gesture with calloused hands. One is older, his hair streaked with grey, telling a story about a llama that wandered off with half his goods. The other laughs a soft, rumbling sound and counters with a tale of a market in a valley where someone tried to trade a sack of potatoes for a gold trinket. You listen, not joining in, but letting their words drift over you like smoke. Their stories are odd, filled with the kind of details that only make sense on the road: a stubborn llama, a crooked merchant, a storm that turned a trail to mud. You take another sip of chicha, the cup warm in your hands now. The traders' voices are soothing, their rhythm matching the fire's crackle. You catch a snippet about a village where the locals swear their spring is blessed by an apu, a mountain spirit. The older trader shrugs, saying he drank from it and felt nothing but wet. You smile, imagining trying to explain that to a modern skeptic. Sacred water, sure, but it's still just water. You've seen enough of the Andes to know that belief is as much a part of the landscape as the stones. You don't argue with it, you just run. The fire pops, sending a spark drifting upward, and you shift on the mat, feeling the ache in your legs from the morning's run. The chicha is doing its job, loosening your muscles, making the tambo feel like a small oasis. You glance at the quipu still safe on the floor and wonder what it's carrying today. A tax record, a call for more weavers, or maybe just a noble's complaint about his chicha being too weak. You smirk, picturing yourself running miles to deliver that one. The trader's voices fade for a moment, and you catch the older one muttering about a strange fish he saw in a river, its scales glinting like gold. You don't know if he's exaggerating, but it's the kind of story that makes the Andes feel alive. You finish the chicha, the last sip, leaving a faint burn in your throat. You set the cup down, its wood, worn smooth by countless hands. The traders are still talking, their voices a soft drone, and you lean back against the wall, the stone cool through your tunic. The tambo is quiet, but not silent. There's the fire, the traders, the distant whistle of wind outside. You feel the coca's warmth, the chicha's calm, and the weight of the quipu waiting for you. The trail is out there calling you back, but for now you rest, letting the tambo's stillness wrap around you like a blanket. You step away from the tambo, the faint taste of chicha lingering on your tongue, its tangy warmth settling into your bones alongside the coca's steady hum. The quipu chords tap softly against your shoulder, their rhythm blending with the crunch of your sandals on the stone trail. The Andean morning is bright now, the sun climbing higher, casting long shadows across the rugged slopes. Your legs feel rested, though the ache from your earlier run lingers, a quiet reminder of the miles still ahead. The trail stretches before you, winding through the mountains like a thread pulled taut. But up ahead, you see where it changes. The path ends at a deep ravine, and spanning it is a rope bridge, its woven fibers swaying gently in the breeze. You've crossed it before, but it never gets easier. You slow your pace, approaching the edge of the ravine. The bridge is an Inca marvel, made of woven grass and llama wool, strong enough to hold a dozen runners, but light enough to dance with the wind. It stretches across the gap, maybe 50 feet, suspended over a drop that makes your stomach tighten if you look too long. The river below is a distant ribbon, its roar muffled by the depth, though you catch the faint sparkle of water in the sunlight. You pause, adjusting the quipu to keep it secure, and take a slow breath. The air is thin and sharp, biting at your lungs, but the coca keeps you steady. You smile, imagining explaining this bridge to a modern commuter. Yeah, just cross a swaying rope over a canyon. No big deal. They'd probably call for a taxi. You step onto the first plank, a narrow strip of wood lashed to the ropes. It creaks under your weight, a soft groan that makes the bridge tremble. The ropes are thick, woven tight, but they sway with every gust, making the whole structure feel alive, like a living thing you have to coax into cooperation. You grip the side ropes, their fibers rough against your palms, and take another step. The bridge sways again, a gentle rock that feels like the world is breathing beneath you. You've done this dozens of times, maybe hundreds, but there's always a moment where your heart skips, just for a second. You chuckle softly, picturing a chasqui trainee crossing this for the first time, eyes wide, clutching the ropes like a lifeline. You were that trainee once, and you're glad those days are behind you. The bridge stretches ahead, its planks uneven, some worn smooth by countless feet, others splintered and rough. You move slowly, one step at a time, feeling the ropes shift under your hands. The sandals grip the wood, their llama wool worn, but reliable, though you're careful not to catch a strap on a stray splinter. The Incas are masters of weaving bridges, quipus, tunics, all made with a precision that's almost annoying. You wonder how long it took to build this, How many hands twisted grass into ropes strong enough to defy the ravine? You smirk, imagining trying to pitch a steel bridge to an Inca engineer. Easier to maintain, you'd say, and they'd laugh, pointing to their ropes that have lasted generations. The wind picks up a cool gust that tugs at your tunic and makes the bridge sway a bit more. You tighten your grip, feeling the coarse fibers dig into your palms and keep moving. The quipu thumps against your back, its cords swaying with the bridge, and you're glad you checked its knots back at the tambo. Losing it here would be a disaster. Imagine fishing a quipu out of that river below. You picture yourself diving into the icy water, coming up with nothing but a soggy cord and a very angry noble waiting at the next tambo. The thought makes you grin, though you're careful to keep your eyes on the planks, not the drop. Halfway across, you pause, letting the bridge settle. The sway is gentle now, like a cradle rocked by an unseen hand. You glance at the mountains, their peaks sharp against the sky, and feel a quiet awe. The Incas built these bridges to connect their empire, to make the impossible possible. You're just a small part of that, a runner carrying knots across a swaying path. Historians still debate how the Incas chose where to place these bridges. Some say it was pure engineering. Others think the Apus, the mountain spirits, guided their hands. You don't know, and you don't much care. You just know the ropes hold, and that's enough. You take another step, the plank creaking softly, and feel the bridge dip slightly under your weight. The river's roar is louder now, a distant hum that vibrates through the ropes. You notice a faint fray in one of the side ropes, a single strand unraveling like a loose thread. It's not enough to worry you. The Incas replace these bridges every year or two, but it's a reminder of how fragile this path is. You've heard stories of Shasky caught on a bridge during a storm, the wind howling, the ropes straining. You're glad it's calm today, just a breeze that ruffles your hair and makes the quipu cords dance. You keep moving your sandals steady on the planks, your hands sliding along the ropes. The coca in your cheek is a soft wad now, its bitterness a familiar comfort, keeping your heart steady despite the dizzying drop below. You think of the modern world with its concrete bridges and guardrails. Would they trade their safety for this, a swaying path over a canyon with nothing but skill and luck to keep you upright? You laugh softly, picturing a city dweller frozen halfway across, refusing to move. Your sandals rough as they are know this bridge, and you trust them to carry you. The far side is close now, the trail's stones gleaming in the sunlight. You take one last step, feeling the solid earth beneath your feet, and let out a quiet breath. The bridge sways behind you, its ropes humming in the breeze, but you're across safe for now. The quipu is secure, the coca is working, and the trail stretches on, winding deeper into the Andes. You glance back at the bridge, a marvel of grass and grit, and feel a small pride in crossing it. The mountains watch silent and vast as you prepare to run again. You step off the rope bridge, the solid earth beneath your sandals, a quiet relief after the swaying planks. The quipu cords tap softly against your shoulder, their rhythm steady as you pause to catch your breath. The coca leaves in your cheek hum with their familiar warmth, dulling the sting of the thin Andean air. The sun is higher now, bathing the mountains in a golden light that softens their jagged edges. The trail stretches ahead, curving down a gentle slope toward a valley where terraced fields cling to the hillside like steps carved by giants. You spot figures moving among the crops farmers, their tunics bright against the green, tending to the land. Your next task is to deliver a message, some fragment of the Quipu's knots to these workers. You adjust the cords and start down the path, your sandals crunching on the stones. The trail descends the air, growing slightly warmer as you leave the higher slopes behind. The valley opens before you, its terraces a patchwork of quinoa potatoes and maize, each plot framed by low stone walls. The Incas are masters of this land, coaxing life from soil that would make most give up. You've seen these fields before, but their order still impresses you, every terrace perfectly aligned, every crop carefully tended. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern farmer with their tractors and sprinklers. Yeah, just carve the mountain into steps and plant by hand. They'd probably think you were joking or insane. You approach the nearest terrace where a group of farmers is at work. Their tools catch your eye, simple but strange, made of wood and stone, with handles worn smooth by years of use. One farmer wields a chaquitakla, a foot plough with a pointed tip, driving it into the soil with a slow rhythmic push. It's not elegant, but it's effective, turning the earth with a precision that rivals the trail stones you've been running on. You pause, watching the farmer's steady movements, the plough's tip glinting in the sunlight. You've never tried it yourself. Running is your trade, not digging, but you can see the skill in it, the kind of quiet expertise that comes from years of practice. You call out softly, your voice carrying across the terrace. The farmers look up, their faces weathered, their eyes curious but not surprised. Chasqui are a familiar sight, bringing news from Cusco or nearby villages. You kneel, slipping the quipu from your shoulder, and hold it out, pointing to a specific strand, a blue cord with a cluster of tight knots. You don't know what it says, but you've been told to show it to the lead farmer, a wiry man with a woven hat tilted against the sun. He nods, squinting at the knots, his fingers tracing them like you did back at the tambo. You wonder what it's telling him. Maybe a call for more quinoa or a warning about frost. You smirk, picturing the knots spelling out something trivial, like a noble's request for fancier potatoes. Good luck with that, you think. The farmer mutters something to his companions, his voice low and steady like the hum of the wind. You catch fragments, something about a harvest, a festival, or maybe a tax. You're not sure, and you don't need to be. Your job is to deliver, not to understand. The farmer's tools are scattered around them, ploughs, digging sticks, even a small stone hoe that looks older than the mountains. You notice one tool, a curved wooden blade, its edge chipped but sharp, lying against a terrace wall. It's strange, almost delicate, like something you'd use to carve a toy rather than till a field. You chuckle softly, imagining trying to sell that to a modern gardener. Great for potatoes, terrible for selfies. The lead farmer hands the quipu back, his expression unreadable. He says something in Quechua, his words soft but firm, and you nod, slinging the cords over your shoulder again. The message is delivered, whatever it was, and you're free to move on. You glance at the terraces, their neat rows stretching up the hillside, and feel a quiet respect. These farmers work as hard as you do, maybe harder wrestling crops from a land that's as stubborn as the Andes themselves. Historians still debate how the Incas managed to feed an empire with these terraces. Some say it was engineering genius. Others point to rituals for the earth goddess Pachamama. You don't know, and you don't much care. You just know the fields are green, and that's enough. You take a step back, the sandals crunching on the path, and notice a young farmer watching you, his hands resting on a plough. He's younger than you, maybe 16, his tunic stained with dirt. He asks something, probably about Cusco or the message, and you shrug, offering a vague answer. You're not here to chat, but you toss him a small grin, remembering your own curiosity when you were new to this. He smiles back, then returns to his work, the plough slicing into the soil with a soft thud. You think of the modern world with its supermarkets and delivery trucks. Would they trade their convenience for this days spent digging in the sun, coaxing life from stone? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller trying to wield a chaquitakla. They'd probably plant their phone by mistake. The coca in your cheek is a soft wad now, its warmth keeping the altitude's bite at bay. You chew a bit more, the bitterness grounding you as you prepare to leave. The farmers return to their tasks, their tools moving in a slow, steady dance. You notice a small pile of stones at the edge of the terrace, stacked neatly, maybe an offering to Pachamama, or just a marker. The Incas love their symbols, and you've seen these piles before, dotting the fields like quiet sentinels. You don't add a stone, but you give the pile a nod just in case. Better to stay on the good side of whatever spirits might be watching. The trail calls you back, its stones gleaming in the sunlight. You adjust the quipu, feeling its familiar weight, and take a deep breath, the air clean and sharp. The farmers' voices fade behind you, a soft murmur blending with the rustle of crops in the breeze. You're ready to run again, to carry the quipu to the next stop, wherever it may be. The Andes stretch around you, vast and unyielding their silence, a quiet invitation to keep moving. You leave the terraced fields behind, the farmers' soft voices fading into the hum of the Andean breeze. The quipu chords tap gently against your shoulder, their rhythm steady as your sandals crunch on the stone trail. The coca leaves in your cheek have softened into a familiar wad, their bitter warmth keeping the altitude's chill at bay. The sun is high now, its light warming the mountains, though the air still carries a sharp edge that brushes your skin. Your legs feel the weight of the morning's run, a quiet ache that reminds you you're human, not a machine. The trail stretches on, but your stomach rumbles, a low growl that cuts through the silence. It's time to pause, to eat something simple to fuel the miles ahead. You spot a flat rock off the path, shaded by a low cliff, and decide it's as good a place as any for a chasqui's meal. You ease yourself onto the rock, its surface cool and smooth against your thighs. The quipu comes off your shoulder, resting carefully beside you, its cords pooling like a tangle of thoughts. You reach for the small woven pouch at your belt, not the one with the coca, but another tied with a single knot. Inside is your meal, packed tightly to last the journey, a handful of quinoa grains and strips of dried llama meat, tough as leather but sustaining. You untie the pouch, the fibers rough against your fingers, and pull out a small portion. The quinoa is pale, like tiny pearls, and the llama meat is dark, its edges curled from drying in the sun. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern foodie. Gourmet, sure, if you like chewing for an hour. They'd probably reach for a burger instead. You scoop a few quinoa grains into your palm, their texture gritty against your skin. You pop them into your mouth, chewing slowly, the nutty flavor spreading across your tongue. It's not much dry, slightly bland, but it's what the Incas eat, from runners like you to nobles in Cuzco. You've heard stories of feasts in the capital with roasted guinea pigs and maize cakes, but out here it's just you and the basics. You take a strip of llama meat, its surface hard and leathery, and bite down. It's tough, like trying to chew a sandal, but you work at it, your jaw moving in a steady rhythm. The flavor is salty, smoky, with a faint gaminess that reminds you of the high pastures where the llamas graze. You lean back against the rock, the cliff's shade cooling your face. The Andes stretch around you, their peaks silent but watchful, their vastness a quiet comfort. You chew the llama meat, feeling it soften slowly in your mouth, and think about the Inca diet. Quinoa, potatoes, maize, these are the empire's lifeblood, grown on terraces like the ones you just passed. You've seen farmers toil over those fields, their tools digging into the earth with a patience you admire. The dried meat is less common, saved for runners or travelers, preserved to last weeks on the trail. You chuckle softly, picturing a modern chef trying to market this meal. Artisanal llama jerky, sustainably sourced. They'd probably charge a fortune for it. The quinoa crunches faintly as you chew its grains, sticking to your teeth. You take a sip of water from a small gourd at your belt, the liquid cold and clean, washing down the dryness. The gourd is simple, etched with a single line that might mean something, or might just be a weaver's whim. You've carried it for years, its weight as familiar as the quipu. You think of the chicha you drank at the tambo, its tangy bite, a contrast to this plain meal. The Incas love their rituals, chicha for rest, coca for strength, quinoa for life. You're not sure if it's sacred or just practical, but it keeps you moving, and that's enough. Historians still debate whether the Inca diet was about survival or spirituality, but you're too busy chewing to care. You take another bite of llama meat, working it slowly, your jaw aching from the effort. The sun shifts, a sliver of light creeping past the cliff, warming your hands. You notice a small ant crawling across the rock, its tiny legs navigating the stone like you navigate the trails. You watch it for a moment, amused by its determination. The Andes are full of small lives, ants, llamas, condors, all moving in their own quiet way. You're just one of them, a chasqui carrying knots instead of crumbs. You smile, imagining explaining that to a modern philosopher. Life's meaning, keep running, don't drop the quipu. They'd probably write a book about it. The meal is simple, but it fills you, its weight settling in your stomach like a promise of strength. You chew another handful of quinoa, the grains popping softly between your teeth. You think of the farmers again, their terraces climbing the mountains like a staircase to the sky. They grow this food, you carry their messages. It's all part of the same web, the empire's pulse. You notice a faint stain on your fingers, probably from the llama meat, and wipe it on your tunic. The Incas are particular about cleanliness, even on the trail. But you're not in Cuzco, and the mountains don't judge. You finish the meal tying the pouch closed with a slow, deliberate knot. The quipu rests beside you, its cords catching the sunlight, their colors muted but bright against the stone. You check it reflexively, making sure the knots are secure. You've carried it too far to let it slip now. The coca in your cheek is nearly gone, its warmth fading, but the meal has done its job, giving you the energy to keep going. You think of the modern world with its endless menus and drive-thrus. Would they trade their variety for this quinoa and jerky eaten on a rock? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller spitting out the llama meat and demanding a refund. The trail weights its stones gleaming in the sunlight, winding deeper into the Andes. You sling the quipu over your shoulder, its cords thumping softly, and stand the rock cool beneath your sandals. The mountains watch their silence, a gentle call to move on. You take a deep breath, the air sharp and clean, and feel the meal settle, ready to carry you forward. The sun had dipped below the Andean peaks, leaving the sky a deep indigo speckled with stars that glimmer like scattered quinoa grains. The trail beneath your sandals is barely visible now, a faint ribbon of stone winding through the mountains, its edges softened by the creeping darkness. The quipu cords tap gently against your shoulder, their rhythm a steady companion as you jog your breath, puffing in small clouds in the chilly air. The coca leaves in your cheek are nearly gone, their bitter warmth fading, but the quinoa and dried llama meat from your earlier meal keep your legs moving steady and sure. The day's run has been long, and the tambos are too far apart to stop now. You're running through the night, guided by the stars, a chasqui carrying the empire's messages under the vast Andean sky. You slow your pace slightly, letting your eyes adjust to the dimness. The stars are bright up here, at nearly 12,000 feet, where the air is so thin it feels like the heavens are closer. You've been trained to read the sky, to find your way when the trail's stones blend into the shadows. The Incas have names for the constellation stories woven into the stars like knots in a quipu. You spot the Hanan Pacha, a cluster of stars said to mark the upper world, its pattern sharp against the dark. You don't know if it's true, but it's a reliable guide pointing you toward the next tambo. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern navigator. No GPS, just vibes and stars. They'd probably panic without their glowing screens. You keep running your sandals, slapping softly against the stones, the sound muffled by the night's quiet. The trail is narrow, its edges rough, but you know it by feel. Now your feet dodging rocks with a practiced ease. The stars light your way, their glow faint but steady like candles held by unseen hands. You glance up, picking out another constellation, a line of stars the Incas call Chacana, the cross said to connect the earth and sky. You're not sure if it's a bridge or just a pretty story, but it keeps you on course, its shape a quiet anchor in the vastness. You chuckle softly, picturing a chasqui trainee staring at the sky, trying to remember which stars are which. You were that trainee once, squinting and confused, until an older runner pointed out the patterns with a patient sigh. The air is colder now, biting at your exposed skin, and you pull your tunic tighter, the rough llama wool scratching against your shoulders. The quipu thumps against your back, its cord swaying with your stride, and you check it reflexively, feeling the knots through the fabric. You've carried it too far to let it slip now, not in the dark, where a lost cord would be impossible to find. You think of the farmers you met earlier, their terraces fading into the night behind you, and wonder what the quipu told them. A call for more crops, a warning about rain, or maybe just a noble's order for fancier quinoa. You smirk, imagining running through the night to deliver a grocery list. The trail dips and you adjust your pace, leaning into the slope. A small rock skitters under your sandal and you sidestep it, your body moving before your mind catches up. The stars are your map, but the trail is your teacher. It's every curve and stone etched into your muscles. You've heard stories of Shasky who lost their way at night, wandering until dawn, but you trust the sky. The Incas have run these paths for generations, guided by the same stars, and you're part of that chain, a small link in a vast web. Historians still debate whether the Incas used the stars for navigation or for worship, but you don't care much for the argument. The Chacana is above you pointing the way, and that's enough. The wind picks up a soft whistle that rustles your tunic and makes the quipu cords dance. You catch a faint scent, wild grass maybe, or the dusty earth of the trail. It's grounding, a reminder that you're not alone even in the dark. The Andes are alive at night, with the hum of insects and the distant cry of a night bird, maybe a condor settling in its roost. You glance up, half expecting to see its silhouette against the stars, but the sky is clear, just an endless field of light. You think of the modern world with its streetlights and neon signs. Would they trade their glow for this, a sky so bright it feels like a secret? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller stumbling in the dark, clutching a flashlight that's out of batteries. Your legs are steady, the coca's fading warmth replaced by the rhythm of your run. You chew the last of the leaves, their bitterness a faint comfort, and feel the trail level out the stones, smoother under your sandals. The Hanan Pacha shines above its stars, a quiet guide, and you follow them, your breath steady, your heart calm. You notice a small pile of stones to your left, stacked neatly, maybe an offering to the stars or the Apus. The Incas love their markers, their quiet nods to the land, and you give the pile a glance, not stopping, but acknowledging its presence. Better to stay on the good side of whatever watches the night. The trail stretches on, disappearing into the shadows, but the stars hold you steady. The quipu thumps, the sandals crunch, and the Andes breathe around you, their silence a gentle call to keep running. You feel the night's embrace, cool and vast, and let it carry you forward one step at a time. The stars above the Andes burn bright, their light a faint guide, as you jog along the narrow trail, your sandals whispering against the worn stones. The quipu cords tap softly against your shoulder, their rhythm blending with your steady breath, now visible in the chilly night air. The coca leaves you chewed earlier are gone, their warmth a fading memory, but the quinoa and dried llama meat from your meal keep your legs moving strong and sure. The mountains are quiet, their peaks swallowed by the dark, though you feel their presence vast and unyielding, like a silent audience to your run. The trail stretches on a shadow among shadows, but you know it by feel, your feet dodging rocks with a practiced ease. Then a glint catches your eye, a pair of eyes low and golden, watching from the slope above. A puma curious, and still its gaze fixed on you. You slow your pace, not stopping, but easing into a careful walk. The puma is perched on a rocky outcrop, its form barely outlined against the starlit sky, its fur blending with the shadows. Its eyes glow faintly like two small moons, and you feel a quiet tension settle in your chest. Not fear exactly, but a heightened awareness. You've seen pumas before their presence, a fact of life in the Andes, where the mountains are as much their home as yours. You keep moving your sandals soft on the trail and avoid staring directly at the animal. You've been taught to respect the puma, to treat it like a guest you don't want to offend. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern hiker. Just keep walking, don't make eye contact. They'd probably snap a selfie and run screaming. The puma doesn't move its gaze steady, but not aggressive. You take a slow breath, the air sharp and cold, and feel the quipu thump against your back, a reminder of your purpose. The Incas call the puma uturunco, a creature tied to the mountains, sometimes a messenger of the apus themselves. You're not sure if you believe that, but you're not about to test the theory. You sidestep a small rock, keeping your movements smooth, your body relaxed. The puma's eyes follow you unblinking, and you wonder what it sees: a runner, a stranger, or just a fleeting shape in the night. You chuckle softly, picturing a Chasqui trainee spotting a puma for the first time, freezing mid-step and forgetting every lesson about staying calm. You were that trainee once, heart pounding, until an older runner whispered, "Keep moving. It's just curious." The trail curves slightly, and you use the bend to put a bit more distance between you and the puma. Your sandals grip the stones, their worn llama wool steady despite the uneven ground. The air carries a faint scent: dust, wild grass, and something musky. Maybe the puma's presence lingering on the breeze. You keep your pace, even your breath slow, letting the night's quiet wrap around you like a blanket. The stars above are your guide, the Chacana constellation, still visible, its cross shape pointing you toward the next tambo. You glance up, grateful for its clarity, and feel a small relief. The puma hasn't followed its eyes now, just a faint glint in the distance. You think of the farmers you met earlier, their terraces fading into the night behind you, and wonder if they've seen this puma. They'd probably leave an offering, a stone, a handful of quinoa, to keep it at peace. The Incas are full of rituals, their lives woven with gestures to the land and its creatures. You don't carry offerings, but you give the puma a respectful nod just in case. Better to stay on the good side of the mountains, you think, grinning at the idea of a puma demanding tribute. Historians still debate whether the Incas saw pumas as sacred or just dangerous, but you're too busy running to care. It didn't pounce, and that's enough for you. The trail levels out the stones, smoother under your sandals, and you pick up your pace, easing back into a jog. The puma's presence lingers in your mind, a quiet reminder of the Andes' wildness. You've heard stories of Chasqui, who claimed pumas followed them for miles, watching from the shadows like silent escorts. You're not sure if they were bragging or just spooked, but you're glad this one stayed put. You picture yourself telling that story at a tambo, the other runners laughing as you describe the puma's stare. "Big deal," they'd say, and you'd laugh too, knowing they've all felt that same prickle on their necks. The quipu thumps against your back, its cord secure, and you check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the knots. You've carried it too far to let a puma distract you now. The night is calm, the stars bright, and the trail stretches on, winding deeper into the mountains. You think of the modern world with its flashlights and wildlife apps. Would they trade their gadgets for this a night run under stars with a puma as your only company? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller shining a light at the puma and yelling for help. Your sandals, rough as they are, know this trail, and the stars know the way. The air is cold, brushing your skin like a soft hand, and you pull your tunic tighter, feeling the llama wool's familiar scratch. The puma's eyes are gone now, lost in the dark, and you feel the tension ease, replaced by the steady rhythm of your run. The Andes are quiet, their silence a gentle hum, broken only by the crunch of your sandals and the rustle of your tunic. You keep moving, the stars above, guiding you, the quipu thumping, and the mountains watching as you slip deeper into the night. The stars above the Andes guide your path, their faint glow casting a soft light over the trail, as you jog your sandals whispering against the smooth stones. The quipu chords tap gently against your shoulder, their rhythm steady, blending with the quiet crunch of your steps in the cool night air. The puma's golden eyes are long gone, faded into the shadows, leaving you alone with the mountain's vast silence. Your legs carry you forward strong from the quinoa and dried llama meat, though a faint ache reminds you of the miles you've covered. The trail dips slightly, and you hear it before you see it. A soft gurgle, like a whisper carried on the breeze. A stream cuts across the path ahead, its water glinting under the starlight. It's time to pause, to drink, and to rest for a moment before the next stretch of your run. You slow to a walk, your sandals sinking slightly into the softer earth near the stream's edge. The air here is cooler, damp, with the scent of water and wet stone, a contrast to the dry dust of the trail. You kneel beside the stream, the ground cold against your knees, and set the quipu carefully on a flat rock nearby. Its chords catch the starlight, their muted colors red, blue, brown, glowing faintly like threads of a dream. You smile, imagining explaining this moment to a modern traveler. Yeah, just stop by a random stream and drink. No filter needed. They'd probably pull out a bottled water and check it for a safety seal. You lean forward, cupping your hands in the stream. The water is icy, shocking your skin, and you feel it slip through your fingers, smooth and clear. You bring it to your lips, drinking slowly, the cold spreading across your tongue, sharp but refreshing. It tastes clean, with a faint mineral tang, like the mountains themselves have flavored it. The Incas revere streams like this, calling them sacred offerings from the Apus, the mountain spirits. You're not sure if you believe that, but you've seen the small piles of stones near streams left by travelers or farmers as a nod to something greater. You glance around, spotting one such pile a few feet away, its rocks stacked neatly, gleaming under the stars. You don't add to it, but you give it a respectful nod, just in case. The stream gurgles softly, its sound a gentle hum that blends with the night's quiet. You take another sip, letting the water pool in your hands before drinking again. The cold stings your throat, but it wakes you, sharpening your senses against the fatigue of the run. You think of the farmers you met, their terraces climbing the hills, and wonder if this stream feeds their fields. The Incas are clever with water, channeling it through stone aqueducts to places it shouldn't reach. You've seen those channels carved with a precision that makes you both admire and resent their builders. Who has time to carve rivers when you're running messages all day? You chuckle softly, picturing a modern engineer staring at an Inca aqueduct, scratching their head. No pipes, just vibes, they'd say. You sit back on your heels, the damp earth cool through your tunic. The stream's surface ripples, catching the starlight in tiny flashes like a mirror for the sky. You notice a small fish darting in the shallows, its scales glinting briefly before it vanishes. The Incas might call it a sign, maybe a message from the water itself. You're not so sure, but you like the idea of fish carrying secrets like a quipu with fins. You smirk, imagining trying to pitch that to a noble in Cusco. New delivery system, trained fish. They'd probably send you back to the trails for even suggesting it. Historians still debate whether the Incas saw every stream as sacred or just the ones tied to their rituals. Some say the water was blessed by the Apus. Others think it was just practical, a source of life in a harsh land. You don't care much for the argument. The stream is here, it's cold, and it's keeping you going. That's enough. You take another drink, the water sliding down your throat, and feel the quipu's weight beside you. You check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the cords, making sure the knots are secure. You've carried it too far to let it slip into the stream. Imagine explaining that to a Quipuca Mayok. Sorry, the message went for a swim. You grin at the thought, knowing you'd never live it down. The night is quiet, save for the stream's soft babble and the distant rustle of wind through the grass. You lean forward, splashing a bit of water on your face, the cold shocking your skin awake. It drips down your chin, pooling in the hollow of your collarbone, and you wipe it away with the back of your hand. The stars above are bright, the Chacana constellation still guiding your way, its cross shape a steady point in the sky. You think of the modern world with its bottled water and vending machines. Would they trade their convenience for this, kneeling by a stream drinking from the Andes' heart? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller staring at the water, wondering if it's organic. You stand slowly, your sandals sinking into the damp earth, and sling the quipu over your shoulder. Its cords thump softly, a familiar comfort. The stream continues its gentle song, and you take one last look, its surface shimmering under the stars. The Andes watch their silence, vast and calm, as you step back onto the trail, ready to run again. The stream's gentle gurgle fades behind you as you step back onto the trail, your sandals crunching softly against the worn stones. The stars above cast a faint glow, their light guiding your path through the Andean night. The quipu chords tap against your shoulder, their rhythm steady, blending with the cool air that brushes your skin. The water you drank by the stream lingers in your throat, its icy clarity keeping you alert despite the long miles you've run. The mountains loom around you, their peaks swallowed by the dark, silent, but ever-present. You jog steadily, your legs moving with the rhythm of habit, when a faint sound catches your ear, a soft patter like an echo of your own steps. Another Chasqui is approaching, his silhouette emerging from the shadows, ready to exchange quipu and share a moment's rest. You slow your pace, easing into a walk, as the figure draws closer. His tunic is much like yours, woven from rough llama wool, and his sandals slap the trail with a familiar cadence. A quipu hangs over his shoulder, its cord swaying as he moves. You raise a hand in greeting, a small gesture in the starlight, and he mirrors it, his face breaking into a tired but friendly grin. You've met other Chaskis before, runners like you carrying the Empire's messages across the Andes. This one looks young, maybe a year or two newer to the trails, his eyes bright despite the late hour. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern courier. Yeah, we just swap packages in the middle of nowhere. They'd probably demand a delivery app and a coffee break. You both stop, standing a few feet apart on the trail. The air is cold, your breath visible in faint puffs, and the stars above seem to pause, watching your quiet exchange. You slip the quipu from your shoulder, holding it out carefully, its cords catching the starlight. He does the same, his quipu slightly smaller, its knots tied in a pattern you don't recognize. You exchange the cords with a practiced ease, each of you checking the other's quipu for damage. The knots feel firm under your fingers, the cords intact, and you nod satisfied. You don't know what his quipu says, maybe a call for more maize, or a noble's request for fancier chicha. You chuckle softly, picturing the knots spelling out something absurd, like a complaint about a lumpy mat. Good luck delivering that one. He speaks first, his voice low and soft, suited to the night's calm. Heard about the llama that wandered into a village feast, he says, his grin widening. You laugh quietly, shaking your head. The story's probably exaggerated, but you lean in curious. He tells you about a farmer who chased the llama for hours, only to find it chewing on a noble's cloak. You smirk, imagining the farmer's panic, trying to shoo the beast without offending anyone. You counter with a story you heard at the last tambo, about a weaver who accidentally dyed her entire stock of wool bright red, claiming it was a gift for the apus. The Chaski laughs, a soft sound that blends with the night, and you feel a small warmth like sharing chicha by a fire. The trail stretches around you, its stones gleaming faintly under the stars. You both sit on a nearby rock, its surface cold but smooth, and rest for a moment. The quipu you've just received feels different, lighter maybe, or tied with looser knots. You run your fingers over it, curious, but not prying. Your job is to carry, not to read, and you're fine with that. The Incas love their mysteries, wrapping messages in cords like secrets in a dream. Historians still debate whether Chaski ever learned the knots' meanings, or if that was left to the Quipuca Mayocs. You don't care much for the argument, you're just glad the cords are secure and the trail is clear. The Chaski shifts, adjusting his sandals, and you notice a small tear in one of his straps. You point it out, half joking. Better fix that before the trail does it for you. He grins, shrugging, and says he's been meaning to visit a weaver, but keeps getting sent on runs. You nod, remembering your own frayed sandals back at the start of this journey. The Andes don't wait for repairs, and neither do the nobles in Cusco. You think of the modern world with its next-day deliveries and repair shops. Would they trade their convenience for this, swapping cords in the dark, joking about runaway llamas? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller trying to barter for a new sandal on a mountain trail. The night is quiet, save for the soft rustle of wind and the distant hum of insects. The Shaski's voice is soothing his stories, a gentle thread weaving through the silence. He mentions a market where someone tried to trade a sack of potatoes for a copper knife, and you both chuckle, imagining the merchant's baffled expression. The stories are small, but they're the kind that keep Chaski's going, little sparks of humor in the long, lonely runs. You share one more about a tambo keeper who insisted his chicha was blessed by the moon. Tasted like regular chicha to me, you say, and the Chaski laughs again, his breath a faint cloud in the starlight. You both stand slinging your new kipus over your shoulders. The cords thump softly, a familiar weight, and you check yours reflexively, feeling the knots under your fingers. The Chaski does the same, his movements mirroring yours, a quiet ritual of the trails. The Shakana constellation shines above its cross shape, guiding you both onward. You give him a nod, and he returns it, his grin fading into a tired but content expression. The trail calls you in opposite directions, and you're ready to run again, the Andes silence wrapping around you like a cloak. You part ways with the other Chaski, his silhouette fading into the starlit shadows as he jogs in the opposite direction. The quipu you received from him rests lightly against your shoulder, its cords tapping softly with each step, a new rhythm to carry you forward. The night air is cold, biting at your skin through the rough llama wool of your tunic, but the stars above shine bright, the Shakana constellation guiding your path like a silent friend. Your sandals crunch against the trail's stones, their worn weave steady despite the long miles you've run. The Andes stretch around you, their peaks hidden in the dark, but you feel their weight, their vast silence, a quiet companion. The trail begins to climb the slope, growing steeper, and you brace yourself for the ascent, a high pass that will test your lungs and legs. You lean into the incline, your sandals gripping the stones as the path narrows, winding upward like a thread stitching the mountains together. The air is thinner here, sharper each breath, a small effort that burns in your chest. You've climbed passes like this before countless times, but they never get easier. The Incas built their trails to conquer the Andes, but the mountains always have the final say. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern hiker with their fancy gear and energy bars. Just keep breathing, no oxygen tanks allowed. They'd probably turn back at the first gasp. Your legs strain, the muscles tightening as you push upward step by careful step. The stones are smooth but uneven, some loose enough to shift under your weight, and you move with care, dodging a small rock that skitters down the slope. The quipu thumps against your back, its cords swaying, and you check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the knots to ensure they're secure. You've carried it too far to let it slip now, not on a climb like this. The stars above are your only light. Their glow faint but steady, casting just enough shadow to show the trail's edges. You spot the Hanan Pacha constellation, its cluster of stars, a quiet reassurance pointing you toward the pass's crest. The air grows colder as you climb, the wind whistling softly, tugging at your tunic like a playful child. You pull it tighter, feeling the rough wool scratch against your shoulders, and take another breath. The burn in your lungs, a familiar ache. The coca you chewed earlier is gone, its warmth a distant memory, but the quinoa and llama meat from your meal keep you moving, fueling each step. You think of the farmers you met, their terraces far below, and wonder if they ever climbed this high. Probably not they have their fields to tend their own battles with the land. You chuckle softly, picturing a farmer trying to haul a chakitakla up this pass. Stick to planting, you'd tell him. The trail steepens and you slow your pace, leaning forward to keep your balance. A loose stone shifts under your sandal and you catch yourself, your hand brushing the ground for stability. The earth is cold, gritty, and you feel a small pebble lodge in your sandal's weave. You pause, shaking it out, and notice the faint dust on your fingers, a reminder of the Andes' stubbornness. You've heard stories of Shaski who rushed these passes only to slip and spend the night nursing a sprained ankle. You're smarter than that, or at least you hope you are. You grin, imagining explaining that to a modern athlete. No crutches, just vibes. They'd probably call for a helicopter. The pass stretches higher the trail, twisting through a narrow gap between two rocky outcrops. The stars seem closer now, their light sharper in the thin air, and you feel the Andes' vast silence pressing around you. It's not empty, not really. There's the wind, the crunch of your sandals, the soft thump of the quipu. But it's a silence that feels alive, like the mountains are listening. The Incas call these high places sacred places, where the Apus dwell, their spirits woven into the stone and sky. You're not sure if you believe that, but you feel something up here, a quiet awe that makes the climb worth it. Historians still debate whether the Incas chose these passes for their paths or their prayers, but you don't care much for the argument. The trail is here, and you're climbing it. You take another step, your breath shallow, your lungs burning with the effort. The air is so thin, it feels like you're sipping it. Not breathing, but you've trained for this, your body molded by years of running. You think of the Chaski you met, his easy grin, and stories of runaway llamas, and wonder if he's climbing a pass like this somewhere else. The Andes are full of runners, each carrying their own quipu, their own piece of the empire's web. You notice a small pile of stones to your right, stacked neatly, maybe an offering to the APUs. You don't add to it, but you give it a nod just in case. Better to stay on the good side of the mountains, you think, smiling at the idea of a peak taking offense. The crest is close now, the trail leveling slightly as you near the top. Your legs ache, your lungs protest, but you feel a quiet pride in each step, in the rhythm of your climb. The modern world, with its escalators and cars, would never understand this, pushing through the dark, guided by stars, just to deliver a bundle of knots. You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller panting halfway up, demanding a ride. Your sandals, frayed but steady, carry you forward, and the quipu thumps its chords secure. The Andes' silence wraps around you, vast and calm, as you reach the pass's edge, ready to descend into the night. You stand at the crest of the high pass, the Andean night stretching around you, its silence vast and heavy, like a blanket woven from starlight. The quipu chords tap softly against your shoulder, their rhythm a quiet companion as your sandals rest on the smooth stones of the trail. Your lungs still burn from the climb, each breath a shallow pull against the thin air, but the ache is familiar, a badge of your Chaski life. The stars above shine bright, the Chacana constellation, a steady guide, its cross shape pointing you toward the next tambo. The wind picks up sharp and cold, cutting through your tunic like a blade. You shiver, feeling the chill seep into your bones, and realize it's time to adjust your cloak, a thick weave of llama wool that's been your shield against the Andes' bite. You pause, stepping to the side of the trail, where a low rock offers a moment's rest. The stone is cold against your thighs, its surface worn smooth by wind and time, and you set the quipu down carefully, its cords pooling beside you. You reach for the cloak draped over your shoulders, its weight heavier than your tunic, its fibers coarse but warm. The wind howls again, tugging at the fabric, and you pull it tighter, wrapping it around your chest like a hug from the mountains themselves. The cloak is dyed a deep brown, with faint stripes of red and yellow, woven in patterns you've never fully understood. You run your fingers over the weave, feeling its texture tight and intricate, a testament to the Inca weaver's skill. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern fashionista. Handmade, sustainable, but scratches like crazy. They'd probably stick to their jackets. You adjust the cloak, pulling the edges to cover your arms, and secure it with a small bone pin at your shoulder. The pin is simple, carved from alpaca bone, its surface smooth from years of use. You've lost pins before, dropped them on the trail, fumbled them in the dark, and you're careful to fasten this one tightly. The wind pushes against you, relentless, carrying the faint scent of dust and wild grass. You breathe it in the cold, stinging your lungs, and feel the cloak's warmth settle over you, dulling the bite. The Incas know their wool. You think their looms turning llama fleece into something that can stand up to the Andes. You've seen weavers at work, their hands moving like dancers, threading patterns that seem to hold stories of their own. The cloak's weave is tight, each thread locked into place with a precision that rivals the trail's stones. You notice a small snag, a single thread pulled loose, and frown, running your finger over it. It's not enough to ruin the cloak, but it's a reminder to visit a weaver at the next village. You're no good with needles. Your knots are better suited for quipu than repairs. You chuckle softly, picturing yourself trying to mend the cloak, ending up with a tangle worse than a dropped quipu. Stick to running, a weaver once told you, and you've taken her advice ever since. You think of the modern world with its sewing machines and fast fashion. Would they trade their convenience for this, a hand-woven cloak that's as much art as armor? You laugh quietly, imagining a city dweller shivering in a thin jacket, cursing the Andes wind. The quipu rests beside you, its cords catching the starlight, their colors muted but vivid in the dark. You check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the knots, ensuring they're secure. You've carried it too far to let a gust of wind steal it now. The wind howls again, sharper this time, and you pull the cloak tighter, feeling its weight ground you. The patterns in the weave, those red and yellow stripes, might mean something, maybe a family's mark or a nod to the apus. You've heard both stories from other chasqui, usually over chicha at a tambo. Historians still debate whether Inca textiles carried messages like quipus or were just decorative, but you don't care much for the argument. The cloak keeps you warm, and that's enough. You stand the rock cold beneath your sandals and adjust the cloak one last time, ensuring it won't flap loose as you run. The wind pushes against you, but the wool holds firm, its fibers, a quiet defense against the night. You think of the chasqui you met earlier, his easy grin and stories of runaway llamas, and wonder if his cloak is as worn as yours. The Andes don't spare anyone, not even the fastest runners. You notice a small stone caught in the cloak's hem, probably kicked up during your climb, and flick it away, watching it skitter down the trail. The Incas loved their stones piles for offerings, walls for terraces, paths for runners. You give the trail a nod, half joking, as if it might notice. The stars above are bright, their light a soft guide as the trail stretches downward, winding into the darkness. The quipu thumps against your shoulder as you sling it back on its cord secure. The cloak feels right now snug and warm, ready to carry you through the next miles. The Andes' silence is vast, broken only by the wind's soft whistle and the crunch of your sandals. You take a deep breath, the air sharp but manageable, and feel the cloak's warmth wrap around you, a quiet promise as you prepare to run again. The trail stretches beneath your sandals, its worn stones cool and steady as you jog through the Andean night. The cloak of llama wool, now snug shield against the biting wind. The quipu cords tap softly against your shoulder, their rhythm a quiet heartbeat, blending with the faint crunch of your steps. The stars above shine with a gentle glow, the Chacana constellation guiding you through the next stretch of mountains, their silence vast and profound. The high pass is behind you, its burning climb a fading ache in your legs, replaced by the steady rhythm of your run. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of dust and wild herbs, and you feel the Andes' presence, a silent companion, watching your every move. As you round a bend in the trail, you spot it, a stone huaca, squat and weathered, standing alone by the path, its surface etched with time. You slow your pace, giving it a nod, curious about its mysterious place in the Inca world. The huaca is unassuming, no taller than your knee, its shape irregular like a rock that decided to stay put centuries ago. Its surface is smooth in places, worn by wind and rain, but rough in others with faint carvings that might be patterns or just the mountain's own scribbles. You've seen huacas before, scattered across the Andes, some grand, some small, all treated with a quiet reverence by those who pass. The Incas call them sacred gateways to the apus or markers of the earth spirit. You're not sure what this one is for, but you give it a respectful glance, your sandals pausing briefly on the trail. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern tourist. Yeah, it's just a rock, but don't mess with it. They'd probably take a photo and move on, missing the point entirely. You step closer, careful not to disturb the ground around the huaca. The starlight catches its edges, giving it a faint glow like it's holding on to the sky's light. You notice a small pile of stones nearby, stacked neatly, probably left by another chasqui or a farmer passing through. Offerings, maybe tokens to honor whatever spirit lives here. You don't carry anything to add, but you adjust the quipu on your shoulder, feeling its cords thump softly, and wonder if the huaca notices your presence. The Incas believe these stones are alive in a way connected to the mountains, the rivers, the stars. You're not a priest, so you don't dwell on it, but you feel a quiet respect, like you're a guest in someone's home. The wind whistles softly, tugging at your cloak, and you pull it tighter, the coarse wool scratching against your skin. The huaca stands unmoved, its silence, a contrast to the trail's constant motion. You think of the farmers you met, their terraces far below, and wonder if they've left offerings here. Maybe this huaca watches over their crops, or maybe it's just a marker for runners like you. You chuckle softly, picturing a noble in Cusco trying to explain its purpose. Sacred rock, very important, they'd say, and you'd nod pretending to understand. The modern world, with its signs and billboards, would never get it a stone that means something without saying a word. You take a step back, your sandals crunching on the trail, and give the huaca another nod, half joking but half serious. Better to stay on the good side of the Apus, you think, especially after that puma's stare earlier. The quipo thumps against your back, it's not secure, and you check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the cords. You've carried it too far to let a moment's distraction cost you. The stars above are bright, their light a steady guide, and you feel the Andes' vast silence wrap around you like a cloak of its own. Historians still debate what huacas meant to the Incas. Some say they were shrines, others think they were just landmarks. You don't care much for the argument. The stone is here, and you're passing it, and that's enough. The trail stretches on, winding deeper into the mountains, its stones gleaming faintly under the stars. You pick up your pace, easing back into a jog, the cloak settling comfortably against your shoulders. The huaca fades behind you, its presence lingering in your mind like a quiet note in a song. You think of the Chasqui you met, his stories of runaway llamas and red-dyed wool, and wonder if he nodded to this huaca too. The Andes are full of these moments, small rituals, quiet gestures tying you to the land and its people. You notice a faint dust on your sandals, kicked up from the trail, and brush it off, the motion automatic. The Incas are particular about keeping things tidy, even out here, where the only witnesses are the stars. The night is calm, the wind a soft hum that blends with the crunch of your steps. You feel the quipu's weight, the cloak's warmth, and the trail's steady pull. The huaca is gone now, swallowed by the dark, but its memory stays with you, a reminder of the Andes' quiet mysteries. You think of the modern world, with its neon lights and concrete. Would they trade their clarity for this, a night run past a sacred stone guided by stars? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller puzzling over the huaca, looking for a plaque to explain it. The trail calls you forward, and you run the Andes' silence, a gentle embrace. The huaca stone fades into the night behind you, its silent presence lingering in your thoughts as you jog along the trail, your sandals whispering against the smooth stones. The quipu chords tap gently against your shoulder, their rhythm blending with the steady crunch of your steps under the starlit Andean sky. Your cloak, snug and warm, shields you from the night's chill, its intricate weave a quiet comfort against the vast silence of the mountains. The Chacana constellation glimmers above, guiding you through the darkness, its cross shape a steady beacon. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of dust and herbs, but a new smell creeps in, something damp, heavy, like the earth holding its breath. You feel a drop on your cheek, then another, and look up to see clouds rolling across the stars. A sudden rain begins soft at first, then steady, and you pull your poncho from your pack to face the wet trail ahead. You pause briefly, stepping to the side of the trail to slip the poncho over your head. It's made of tightly woven alpaca wool dyed a muted grey, its surface slick with a coating of plant resin to repel water. The poncho is heavier than your cloak, its weight settling over your shoulders like a second skin. You adjust it, making sure it covers the quipu, its cords, now tucked safely beneath the fabric to keep them dry. The rain patters softly, a gentle drumbeat on the poncho, and you feel the first drops soak into your sandals, the llama wool growing damp but still gripping the stones. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern commuter. Yeah, just throw on a wool poncho and keep running. They'd probably demand an umbrella and a raincoat. You step back onto the trail, the stones now slick underfoot, their surfaces gleaming in the faint starlight that peeks through the clouds. The rain is steady, not a downpour, but enough to make the path treacherous. You slow your pace, moving with care, your sandals sliding slightly on a wet stone before finding their grip. The Andes don't make anything easy, and rain turns the trail into a puzzle of balance and patience. You've run in worse storms that turned paths to mud winds that nearly knocked you off a pass, but you're cautious, knowing a slip could mean a twisted ankle or a soaked quipu. You chuckle softly, picturing a Chasqui trainee slipping in the rain, flailing like a startled llama. You were that trainee once, and you're glad those lessons are behind you. The poncho grows heavy, the wool absorbing the rain despite its resin coating. It clings to your shoulders, its damp weight a constant reminder of the storm. You pull it tighter, feeling the coarse fibers brush your arms and adjust the quipu beneath it, ensuring the cords stay dry. The Incas are masters of weaving their ponchos built to endure the mountain's moods, but nothing stops the rain entirely. You think of the weavers you've met, their hands threading wool with a precision that rivals the trail's stones. You wonder if they know how much a Chasqui relies on their work out here, where the weather changes faster than a noble's mood. You smirk, imagining trying to pitch a modern raincoat to a weaver. Plastic lightweight, they'd laugh and hand you another poncho. The trail slopes downward, the stones slicker now, and you lean back slightly, keeping your balance. A small rivulet of water runs alongside the path, gurgling like the stream you drank from earlier, its sound blending with the rain's soft patter. You dodge a loose stone, its surface glistening, and feel the poncho flap against your legs, heavy with water. The quipu thumps beneath it, safe for now, and you're grateful for the poncho's protection, even if it feels like carrying an extra pack. You think of the farmers' terraces now far behind, and wonder if this rain will help their crops or flood their fields. The Andes give and take, and you're just a runner caught in the middle. Historians still debate whether the Incas saw rain as a blessing or a challenge. Some say it was a gift from the sky, others think it was just another test of endurance. You don't care much for the argument. The rain is here, soaking your poncho and slicking the trail, and you're dealing with it. You notice a small pile of stones to your left, half hidden by the rain, probably an offering to the Apus for safe passage. You don't stop to add one, but you give the pile a glance, half joking, as if the mountains might notice. Better to stay on their good side, you think, especially after that puma's stare and the high passes climb. The rain continues, a steady curtain that blurs the trail ahead. You keep moving your sandals, finding their way despite the slick stones, your body leaning into the rhythm of the run. The poncho is heavy, its damp wool a weight you're used to, and you feel the quipu's cords beneath it secure and dry. You think of the modern world with its waterproof gear and weather apps. Would they trade their gadgets for this, trudging through rain, trusting a wool poncho and your own feet? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller slipping on the trail, cursing their soggy sneakers. Your sandals wet but steady know this path, and the stars hidden by clouds will return to guide you. The trail stretches on its stones, gleaming in the rain, winding deeper into the Andes. The poncho's weight is a quiet burden, but it keeps you moving one step at a time through the night's wet embrace. The rain has eased, leaving the trail slick and glistening under a sky where the clouds part to reveal scattered stars. Your sandals squelch softly with each step, the damp llama wool clinging to your feet, and the poncho hangs heavy on your shoulders, its wool sodden but still shielding the quipu cords beneath. The quipu thumps gently against your back, its knots safe from the storm, a quiet reminder of your purpose. The Andean night is cold, the air sharp against your damp skin, and your cloak tucked beneath the poncho offers little warmth in its soaked state. Ahead you spot the faint glow of a fire flickering from a small stone shelter built into the hillside, a makeshift tambo, or perhaps just a traveler's camp. You head toward it, eager to dry off and warm yourself, to let the fires crackle and the stories it carries soothe your weary body. You approach the shelter, its low stone walls blending with the mountain, the firelight casting dancing shadows across the ground. The structure is simple, with a thatched roof to keep out the rain, and the fire burns in a shallow pit at its center, fed by dried grass and twigs. You duck under the low entrance, the warmth hitting you like a gentle wave, and set the quipu carefully on a dry patch of earth near the wall. You slip off the poncho, its weight a relief to shed, and hang it on a wooden peg to drip dry. The cloak beneath is damp but salvageable, and you shake it out, feeling the coarse llama wool brush your hands. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern camper. Yeah, just dry your poncho by a fire. No dryer needed. They'd probably check for Wi-Fi first. You settle near the fire, the ground warmed by its heat, and stretch your hands toward the flames. The fire crackles softly, a comforting sound that fills the shelter, its glow painting your skin in shades of orange and gold. The warmth seeps into your fingers, chasing away the chill, and you feel your shoulders relax, the tension of the rainy trail easing. Your sandals are still wet, the wool heavy with water, and you wiggle your toes hoping the fire's heat will reach them. The Incas know how to build a fire. You think their pits designed to burn steady, even in the damp. You've seen tambo keepers tend flames like this, coaxing life from soggy twigs with a patience you admire. The shelter isn't empty. A lone traveler sits across the fire, an older man with a weathered face, his tunic patched but clean. He's a herder, you guess, by the faint smell of llama wool on him and the staff leaning against the wall. He nods at you, his eyes kind but welcoming, and tosses another stick into the fire, sending up a small burst of sparks. He speaks softly, his voice low and rhythmic, like the rain's echo telling a story about the mountains. It's an Inca myth, one you've heard in fragments, a tale of a condor who carried the sun to the sky, its wings beating against the darkness to bring dawn. You listen, half lulled, the story's strangeness weaving into the fire's crackle. You chuckle quietly, picturing a modern storyteller trying to pitch this epic bird saves the day. They'd probably turn it into a cartoon. The fire pops, sending a spark drifting upward, and you shift closer, feeling the heat on your face. The herder's tale winds on now, about a river that sang to a village, its waters whispering secrets to those who listened. You think of the stream you drank from earlier, its gurgle not quite a song but close, and wonder if there's truth in the myth. The Incas love their mysteries, tying stories to the land rivers, stars, stones, rivers. You're not a priest, so you don't dwell on it, but the herder's voice is soothing, a gentle drone that makes the shelter feel like a pocket of warmth in the vast night. Historians still debate whether these myths were meant to explain the world or to honor the gods, but you don't care much for the argument. The fire burns, the story flows, and you're warming up. That's enough. You adjust your cloak, spreading it over your lap to dry its damp edges. The weave is intricate, its red and yellow stripes catching the firelight, and you notice a faint stain, maybe from the poncho's resin. You rub it gently, but it doesn't budge, and you move on. The quipu rests nearby, its cords dry, thanks to your poncho, and you check it reflexively, your fingers brushing the knots. You've carried it too far to let it near the flames now. The herder glances at the quipu, his eyes curious. But he doesn't ask. He knows a chasqui's work carry don't question. You think of the modern world with its emails and instant messages. Would they trade their speed for this warming by a fire, listening to myths under the Andes stars? You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller trying to decipher a quipu by firelight. The fire's warmth reaches your sandals now, the damp wool beginning to steam faintly. You wiggle your toes again, feeling the heat seep in, and lean back against the stone wall, its surface cool but grounding. The herder's story shifts now about a mountain that wept tears of silver, its streams glinting like treasure. You smile, half believing it, the Andes, full of such wonders. The fire crackles, the shelter hums, and the night waits outside, ready for you to run again. The fire's warmth lingers on your skin as you step back into the Andean night, the herder's myths echoing softly in your mind like the crackle of the flames. Your sandals, now mostly dry, crunch against the trail's stones, their damp llama wool still gripping your feet. The poncho is slung over your shoulder, its weight lighter after drying by the fire, and your cloak wraps snugly around you, its weave a quiet shield against the cool air. The quipu cords tap gently against your back, their rhythm steady, a reminder of the message you've carried through mountains, rain, and starlight. The Chacana constellation shines above its cross, guiding you through the final stretch of your journey. Ahead you see the faint outline of a tambo, its stone walls glowing softly in the starlight. This is your destination, the place to hand off the quipu, your task complete with a quiet satisfaction. You slow your pace as you approach the trail, widening slightly, its stones smoother underfoot, worn by countless chasquis and travelers. The tambo is larger than the last, its walls sturdy with a thatched roof that sags gently under the weight of time. A torch flickers at the entrance, casting a warm glow that dances across the ground, and you catch the faint smell of smoke and roasted maize. Your legs ache from the long run, a dull throb that feels earned, and you feel a small swell of pride. You've made it through the pass, the rain, the puma's gaze. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern delivery worker. Yeah, just run across mountains and hand over some knots. They'd probably demand a truck and a GPS. You step into the tambo, ducking under the low stone lintel. The air inside is warm, tinged with the scent of burning wood and chicha, a comforting contrast to the night's chill. A fire burns in a pit at the center, its flames low but steady, and a tambo keeper stands nearby, a stout man with a woven cap stirring a clay pot over the coals. He looks up as you enter, his face creased with lines that speak of years spent tending this outpost. You nod, and he returns the gesture, his eyes flicking to the quipu on your shoulder. You slip it off carefully, holding it out with both hands, its cords draping across your palms like a delicate weave. The keeper takes it, his fingers brushing the knots, and you feel a quiet satisfaction, like setting down a heavy load after a long day. The keeper mutters something in Quechua, his voice soft and rhythmic, like the stream you drank from earlier. You don't catch the words, maybe a thank you, maybe a note about the quipu's next stop, but you don't need to. Your job is done, the message delivered its secrets, safe with someone else. You think of the farmers, the other chasqui, the huaca stone, all part of the web you've run through. The quipu could have carried anything, a tax record, a call for more llamas, or maybe just a noble's complaint about his chicha. You chuckle softly, picturing yourself running miles for a bad drink review. Hope it was worth it, you'd say, but you know it always is. The keeper sets the quipu on a low shelf beside other cords, waiting for their runners, and offers you a wooden cup of chicha. You take it, the wood warm in your hands, and sip slowly, the tangy, sour flavor spreading across your tongue. It's better than the last batch you drank, though still sharp enough to make you pucker. The Incas love chicha. You think their lives woven with its rituals, just like the trails and the stars. You settle near the fire, the ground soft with packed earth, and let the warmth seep into your legs, easing the ache. You smile, imagining a modern barista trying to serve this. Fermented corn, anyone, no latte art. They'd be out of customers by noon. The tambo is quiet, save for the fire's crackle and the keeper's soft humming as he tends the pot. You notice a small woven mat on the wall, its patterns similar to your cloak's stripes, and wonder if it's from the same weaver. The Incas are artists, their looms telling stories in every thread, though you're too tired to guess this one's meaning. Historians still debate whether tambos were just rest stops or sacred hubs, places where the empire's pulse beat strong. You don't care much for the argument, you're just glad for the fire, the chicha, and the chance to sit. You think of the modern world with its hotels and rest areas. Would they trade their comfort for this? A stone hut, a cup of chicha, and a job well done. You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller shivering by the fire, demanding a thermostat. The keeper tosses a stick into the fire, sending up a small burst of sparks, and you shift your sandals, feeling the last traces of dampness in the wool. The quipu is gone from your hands, but its weight lingers in your mind, a reminder of the trail's purpose. You sip the chicha again, its warmth spreading through your chest, and feel the Andes silence outside, vast and calm. The tambo's fire glows, the stars wait beyond the walls, and you're ready to rest, if only for a moment, before the next run calls. The tambo's fire crackles softly, its warmth lingering on your skin as you step back into the Andean night, the taste of chicha still faintly tangy on your tongue. Your sandals now dry crunch gently against the packed earth outside their llama wool, worn but steady after the long journey. The quipu is gone, handed off to the tambo keeper, its knots now someone else's burden, leaving your shoulders light, almost weightless. Your cloak wraps snugly around you, its intricate weave a quiet comfort. Though the poncho remains slung over your arm, its damp wool no longer needed under the clearing sky. The stars shine bright, the Shakana constellation glowing like a whispered promise, its cross shape a final guide in the vast darkness. You're done running for now, your task complete, and you find a woven mat near the tambo's edge, a place to rest under the mountain's calm, letting the Andes lull you into a gentle haze. You ease yourself onto the mat, its coarse alpaca fibers scratching faintly against your tunic, a familiar texture that feels like home after the trail's hard stones. The ground beneath is cool, packed earth smoothed by countless travelers, and you stretch out your legs, heavy but content, the ache of the day's run settling into a quiet hum. The stars above are endless, a tapestry of light that seems to pulse with the Andes' heartbeat. You breathe deeply, the air sharp and clean, carrying the faint scent of grass and stone, a reminder of the stream, the Huaca, the high pass you've crossed. You smile, imagining explaining this to a modern stargazer. No telescope, just lie down and look. They'd probably need an app to name the constellations. You adjust your cloak, pulling it over your chest, like a blanket, its red and yellow stripes catching the starlight. The weave is warm, its fibers still holding the fire's heat, and you feel your body relax, sinking into the mat's embrace. The Andes are silent, their vastness, a quiet song broken only by the soft rustle of wind and the distant call of a night bird, maybe a condor settling in its roost. You think of the Chasqui, you met his stories of runaway llamas, and the farmers with their terraced fields, all part of the empire's web you've run through. The quipu's knots are gone, but their weight lingers in your mind. Maybe a message for more quinoa, or just a noble's whim. You chuckle softly, picturing yourself running again tomorrow, carrying another set of cords. The Andes don't rest, and neither do Chasqui, not really. The mat is firm, its fibers pressing into your back, but it's enough a simple comfort after the trail's demands. You notice a small tear in the cloak's hem, probably from the rainy slog, and make a mental note to find a weaver. You're no good with repairs, your hands are better at dodging rocks than threading needles. You think of the Huaca stone, its silent presence by the trail, and wonder if it's watching you now, a guardian of the night. The Incas see spirits everywhere, stars, stones, streams, and you're not sure if you believe, but you feel something here, a calm that wraps around you like the cloak. Historians still debate whether Chasqui carried rituals with their quipus, or if the trails themselves were sacred. You don't care much for the argument, you're just glad for the mat, the stars, and the chance to lie still. The wind brushes your face, cool but gentle, and you close your eyes for a moment, letting the Andes' silence fill you. The Chacana shines in your mind, its stars, a map you've followed through the dark. You think of the puma's golden eyes, the rain's steady patter, the fire's myths all woven into this journey. The modern world with its beds and heaters would never understand this, resting on a mat warmed by wool with only the stars for company. You laugh quietly, picturing a city dweller trying to sleep here, complaining about the lack of pillows. Your sandals tucked beside the mat are frayed but loyal, ready for the next run, and the cloak holds you close, its weave a quiet story of the Andes. You shift slightly, the mat creaking under your weight, and feel your breath slow, each inhale deep and steady. The stars seem to soften, their light blurring at the edges, and you wonder if the apus are watching, their spirits tied to the mountain's calm. The quipu is gone, but its purpose lingers, a thread connecting you to the empire's heart. You think of the tambo's fire, the chicha's warmth, and the trail's endless call. The Andes are vast, their silence a lullaby, and you let it carry you, your thoughts drifting like clouds across the sky. The night is yours, for now a moment to rest before the next journey begins. You lie on the woven mat, the Andes calm wrapping around you, soft as the starlight above. The cloak's wool is warm, its fibers a gentle weight, and the mat holds you close, its scratches fading into a quiet comfort. The Chacana constellation glows faintly, its stars blurring as your eyes grow heavy, their light a whispered lullaby. The wind hums cool and slow, carrying the scent of earth and distant streams, a reminder of the trail you've run. Your sandals rest beside you, their frayed wool silent, and the quipu's absence feels like a task well done. Its knots now part of the empire's vast weave. The mountains watch, their silence deep, a cradle rocking you gently into rest. You breathe slowly, each breath softer, longer, as the Andes, quiet, seeps into your bones. The puma's eyes, the huaca's stone, the rain's patter, they drift through your mind, fading like ripples in a stream. The stars pulse their light, a gentle tide, and you feel yourself slipping, carried by the night's embrace. The trail waits always there, but for now you're here on a mat under the sky, the Andes calm, a soft whisper. Let the mountains hold you, let the stars guide you, let the silence sing you into a gentle haze. You're a chasqui, but tonight you're just you, resting, drifting, dreaming under the vast, quiet sky. Thank you for joining this quiet journey through the Andes. Sleep well under the stars. Good night.